A woman's bizarre meltdown was captured before takeoff aboard a flight in the United States. And what everybody is talking about is that she's pointed at someone at the back of the plane, claiming that they are not real. Something awful is about to happen.
Say whatever you want. I'm telling you, I'm getting the off, and there's a reason why I'm getting the off, and everyone can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two but I am telling you right now, that back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can die with them or not. I'm not going to.
Bye.
Now, in any video before any body language analysis, the first thing you need to think about is who is behind the camera. And in this case, it was one of the passengers with a mobile phone. So we can assume that this clip is just the last part of the argument because there must have been a previous discussion or altercation loud enough at the back of the plane for this person to start recording. In fact, there are other angles that portray the couple minutes before the incident, but they don't give much more information than what we have already seen. Let's start with one of the most peculiar details of her body language, and in this case, I'm going to break my rule of going from the general to the specific, and we'll jump straight to the way she points with her fingers. Some have said that she must be a flight attendant because that's exactly how flight attendants point to the exits of a plane. But I think that assessment is a bit clouded by the fact that this is happening inside a plane, because pointing with two fingers, index and middle, is something that some people do as a polite gesture, as pointed with just one finger could be rude. If you have been to Disney parks, for example, you might have noticed that people that work there point with two fingers. Some have even suggested more disturbing meanings, such as picking up this one frame and comparing it to the image of Baphomet, a goat-headed pagan idol which has the exact same gesture of pointing upwards and downwards with two fingers. The meaning in that case is metaphysical, which is as above, so below, but I think that's stretching too much what was going on with the gestures of this woman. I mean, not gonna lie, the Baphomet thing is an interesting observation, but cherry-picking one frame usually is way too specific to reach a solid conclusion. But she also points with just one finger, which is even more confusing, because when someone is used to pointing with two fingers as a polite gesture, they usually are so used to do it automatically that it takes a great deal of stress to break the habit. At the same time, if body language suggests that the person is pointing, you need to address what is that something the person is pointing at. And I noticed that the woman's argument is focused on the flight attendants. When she's walking to the front of the plane, she is talking to someone directly in front of her that we cannot see. We assume that she's talking to a flight attendant who is beyond this partition, but when she turns around and she's making all these claims that she's not going to be on that flight for reasons, she's yelling straight ahead at the flight attendants on the back of the plane. There is no sign that if she thought that there was something odd with the plane or a weird guy next to her and the flight was in some kind of danger, she was not interested in giving a warning to the other passengers. So that's how you can tell she's completely focused on herself. Not necessarily bad, but that is not normal human nature. We are gregarious, so the norm is that if we detect some kind of danger and we are in a group, and in this case it's a very tight group since you're inside a plane about to take off, it will be human nature to warn others or at least address your concerns in a more general way to everyone. That doesn't happen here. So she's focused on herself and what she allegedly saw, but what is really going on? And for that, it's important to listen to her voice. We have no way of establishing a body language baseline or what's her usual body language because we don't have footage of this woman in a non-stressful situation. So we will have to assume that whatever she's going through, it's going to be reflected on her voice in one way or another.
I am telling you right now, that back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can die with them or not. I'm not going to.
High-pitched voices can be a signal of distress because when we are under a threatened situation, the pitch of our voices for both men and women goes up. The sound is more acute And this is because higher frequency sounds have longer reach, so that way we can warn more of our peers at longer distances. At the same time, hearing a higher pitched voice or scream puts us on warning mode, and lower pitched voices are more soothing. Again, we are talking about what happens when you are extremely distressed. Your voice pitch will go up regardless of your natural voice tone. What tells me that there is real distress in here is the way her voice shakes. And voice usually shakes because of labor or heavier breathing, in which the person is trying to get more oxygen for being in fight or flight mode. But what I find strange is that she looks way more angry than distressed. Like she's angry at something rather than scared of something. And I don't see any traces of hand or body shaking or head shaking, which are normal when a person is distressed. Your muscles become tense and produce this shaky behavior. You can try it for yourself. You tense your muscles and you notice that it's impossible to keep your arms or body perfectly still. That is not present here, which is quite confusing. And there are other signals that reinforce the idea that she was more angry than scared. Notice that she leans into the direction she's talking. We already know that it was the flight attendants at the back. This leaning towards the people she's talking to is more a threatening gesture than a defensive gesture. If a person is scared, the general body language would be more defensive rather than threatening. And there's one facial emotion tip that also reinforces the notion that she was more pissed off than anything else. And it is her blinking. Sadly, we don't have a continuous shot of her because when she points at the back of the plane, the guy with the camera pans to the back at the same time. But it's odd enough that in the 15 seconds of footage that we see her yelling, she doesn't blink, not even one time. When someone is fearful or defensive or under severe stress, the blinking rate usually goes up. Blinking helps us understand what is going on around us. It's an internal mechanism to assess our environment. But when a person is on the offensive or ready to attack, the blinking will go down because the brain needs as much information as it can gather from the outside to measure any threats. And talking about her eyes, I'm sure your intuition picked this up, but couldn't really say what was off about them. There's no expression, no terror, no angst, no fear, nothing. That absence of emotion in the eyes mixed with the rest of her body language can also be a signal of concealed anger. So both the body language very specific towards the flight attendants, the leaning into their direction, and the lack of blinking tells me that she was more angry than anything. Also, did you notice that nobody was trying to calm her down or reach out to her? It's because everyone's intuition was firing up and telling them that this woman was more enraged than anxious. If a woman or a man is distressed, empathy will kick in, and at least one or two people are going to try to ask them what happened or try to comfort them. But no, these people knew better. They sensed this was not it. Well, last but not least, her words. She says that MF right there is not real and you can sit on this plane and you can die with them or not. I'm not going to. So this is a bit confusing. In the same sentence, she talks about one guy and then she talks about them and then she claims that the guy is not real. What is that supposed to mean? Of course, this is the internet, and we also have misleading videos of pranksters who claim to have seen some kind of lizard man in the plane, and people believe it, even if they explicitly stated that it was a joke to see how gullible people were, or people posting alleged videos of the not real guy when this was proven to be not the same flight but 1 year ago. Because internet. I cannot say that this could be a psychotic episode. The clip is too short and we don't have a body language baseline. What I can say is that this doesn't look like someone who's scared for her life, but instead someone who's really angry at something or someone. Either way, I would like to know what do you think about this in the comments. Don't forget to download my free 100 body language tips right in the description. And if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my body language analysis and tips. Much love and bliss.